When I ranked the 8 default free decks in Pokemon TCG Live for all of 2024, I put Lugia V-STAR in 7th, and I stand by that decision. The list is kinda butt, lacking any sort of one-hit KO power. I mean, its biggest attack belongs to Lugia V-STAR at just 220, which is a terrible number right now. Thankfully, for less than 3,000 credits, you can make Lugia a tier 1 deck. This is actually the 3rd time a Lugia V-STAR deck has been given away on PTCGL. The first was with the Silver Tempest Battle Pass in November 2022, and then again in January of this year with Paldea and Fates. Clearly the devs have a thing for Lugia like I have a thing for Lopunny. The good news is that you probably already own 4 copies of Lugia V and V-STAR as a result, but if you don't, the 2024 free deck only has 3 Lugia V, which kinda sucks. On the bright side, there are 4 Archeops and a whole whack of special energy, meaning there aren't too many holes to fill. Ultimately, after all the upgrades, this is the Lugia V-STAR deck you'll want to use. It's super straightforward and doesn't have any bells or target whistles that might confuse newer players. And best of all, it's just 2,750 credits to build. I know it may seem like you have to spend a lot of credits to craft all of these missing cards, but aside from Lugia V at 750 credits and Master Ball at 600 credits, everything's 100 credits or less. If you are low on credits though, you can go with just a 3-3 Lugia line for now to save 750 credits, and you can replace that Master Ball with a copy of Mesagoza to save 600 credits. That brings the total cost of the upgrades to a much more manageable 1,400 credits, though you are hurting the consistency of the deck. But when the new Twilight Masquerade Battle Pass begins on May 23rd, you can use the 2,700 free credits at Tier 0 to craft whatever you're missing, provided you actually like Lugia. I'll include lists for the cheap and expensive builds of Lugia V-STAR in the description, so you can easily copy and paste them into Live and craft whatever you're missing. The early game strategy with Lugia is fairly straightforward, if not potentially frustrating. So long as you end your first turn with a Lugia V on the field though, you have a chance to win. If you don't, well, things get sucky. Basically, step 1 is getting a Lugia V into play. Step 2 is getting 2 Archeops into the discard pile by turn 2. That in itself can be the biggest challenge Lugia faces, no matter how hard you clench your cheeks. Still, between 4 copies of Ultra Ball, 4 Capturing Aroma, a Great Ball, a Jacq, and a Master Ball, the odds of getting Archeops in your hand are in your favor. Then you use Ultra Ball, Professor's Research, Serena, or even Lugia V's Read the Wind attack to discard those Archeops. Once you have 2 Archeops in the discard pile, use Lugia V-STAR Summoning Star to put those Archeops directly onto your bench, clearing the path to victory. If things are going poorly, you can put just 1 Archeops into play, but that's obviously not optimal since they can simply boss KO your lone Archeops and you basically just lose. If you do get 2 Archeops down though, from that point on it should be smooth sailing. Once you've used Lugia's V-STAR power, the strategy then shifts to attacking with Cinccino. It does 70 damage for each special energy card attached to it, so accelerate 4 energy using Archeops' ability and manually attach 1 from hand. Do that, and you're dealing 350 damage, enough to one-shot pretty much everything in Standard, including Charizard EX. One thing you do have to be aware of with Cinccino is that its attack counts energy cards, not energy. So double turbo energy only counts as 1, and it's even worse because you still get the negative 20 damage reduction. So you want your Cinccino to have Gift Energy, Jet Energy, Mist Energy, Therapeutic Energy, or V-Guard Energy on them, never double turbo. There's 17 special energy in the deck, so getting 5 on your Chinchilla shouldn't be too difficult. And probably the best special energy is Gift Energy. It goes super hard in Lugia. Since you don't play a support Pokemon like Bibarel, you need a way to draw cards. Well, if the Pokemon Gift Energy is attached to gets knocked out, you drop to 7 cards in hand. That basically makes you Iono proof. And if they decide to boss around Gift Energy, that likely leaves a beefy Cinccino alive to take another massive KO the next turn. Similarly, there's no switch cards in the deck. That's where Jet Energy comes into play. Unless you have to, don't put Jet Energy into play using Archeops. You want to save your Jet Energy for manual attachments. That's because when you attach Jet Energy, the Pokemon moves from the bench to the active, so it stops any stall plays by your opponent. And once Lugia V-STAR has used Summoning Star, you want to get it out of there. You achieve that with Collapsed Stadium. Assuming you have a full bench, play Collapsed Stadium, and you can discard your Lugia V-STAR or Lumineon V, removing any potential 2-prize liabilities. To simplify the strategy with Lugia, get a Lugia V down turn 1, discard Archeops and use Lugia V-STAR's ability on turn 2, then do massive damage with Cinccino the rest of the game. There's definitely some changes you can make to Lugia depending on how your experience is going. A second Lumineon V can go a long way, especially if you prize one of them. It's also great at finding a late game boss's orders. Mew EX also has a lot of potential. Not only is it a free retreater, but for 3 colorless energy it can copy any attack, including Radiant Greninja's Moonlight Shuriken if you want to snipe their bench, or Charizard EX's Burning Darkness to take a one-hit KO if they have one prize card left. Around 55 cards will be the same in every Lugia deck, so feel free to whack off a tiny bit, just keep in mind that Lugia's biggest weakness is itself. Finding Archeops and getting them into the discard pile can sometimes be a struggle, so don't get too frustrated if you lose several games in a row. Lugia's second biggest weakness is Iron Hands EX. Iron Hands deals double damage to Lugia and Lumineon V through weakness, able to take 3 prize cards on your V or V-Star with Amp You Very Much. And it also one-shots Cinccino, able to take 2 prizes. You basically just have to hope they whiff a Heavy Baton or fail to get an Iron Hands or Miraidon attack off turn 1. Otherwise, it's very rough. When Twilight Masquerade comes to Pokemon TCG Live on May 23rd, there's one card you absolutely want to add: Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. Ursaluna's made its way into almost every Japanese Lugia list, and it's not hard to see why. Similar to Radiant Charizard, Ursaluna's attack costs 1 colorless energy less for each prize card your opponent has taken. So if they've taken 5 prizes, it does 240 damage for free, which is insane. Craft one at the end of May for 600 credits, chuck it in your Lugia deck, and now your list is pretty much set until at least August. But there are a few other upcoming cards to be aware of, namely a couple of ace specs. Survival Cast is an interesting tool card where, if the Pokemon it's attached to is at full health, it survives a one-shot and gets left with 10 HP. It is your ace spec though, meaning it would replace something like Master Ball. But it helps your Lugia V survive at the beginning of the game, preventing your opponent from gusting up a lone one and basically winning. It's also beneficial later in the game, protecting a Cinccino and letting it do 350 damage on back-to-back turns. However, Twilight Masquerade will also bring us a new stadium, Jamming Tower. No, you don't start dancing when it's played. Effectively a reprint of Lysander Labs, Jamming Tower shuts off all tool cards. Considering that Gardevoir EX relies heavily on tools and Snorlax uses HP buffs to survive longer, Jamming Tower has a good chance of seeing play. If so, Survival Cast becomes much less good. And don't forget that numerous decks play Lost Vacuum, which can also remove Survival Cast. That being said, both Master Ball and Survival Cast can't be manually searched for in Lugia. You just have to hope you draw into them. That's where Legacy Energy comes in. It's not available yet in Japan, so we don't have any tournament data, but it seems kinda busted in Lugia. Not only is it a rainbow energy, offering up 1 energy of every type when it's attached to a Pokemon, but when the Pokemon it's attached to is knocked out, your opponent takes 1 less prize card. While it doesn't offer up the survival aspect of Survival Cast, it does allow you to slow down your opponent by denying a prize card. And even better, it opens up the option to play Iron Hands EX and Radiant Charizard in the deck, giving you more options for alternate attackers. And you can even use Legacy Energy to attack with Lumineon V, shuffling both back into the deck afterwards. I'll have a lot more Twilight Masquerade videos up as we get closer to launch at the end of May, but Legacy Energy is definitely something to look out for. To quickly sum up, if you want to create a fully viable Lugia V-Star deck right now on PTCGL, it costs 2,750 credits. You'll end up with a deck that hits extremely hard and wins a lot when it gets going, but is prone to having some tough starts. Otherwise, 1,400 credits is enough to get Lugia where it needs to go, but you'll be missing that 4th Lugia V and a Master Ball. And when Twilight Masquerade comes out on May 23rd, get yourself a copy of Blood Moon Ursaluna EX to have a potential free attacker. And be on the lookout for the Survival Cast and Legacy Energy ace specs, as they could push Lugia over the edge. If you have any questions about the Lugia deck, Pokemon TCG Live, or the proper ratio of lotion to foot size, ask away in the comments.